Hi, this is Mike Young of Noble Warriors. You are about to hear a seminar titled Juice Up Your Bible Study, Performance Enhancers to Build Spiritual Muscle. The seminar is presented by Landon Norton of Logos Bible Software. It was presented at the Iron Sharpens Iron Men's Conference in Colonial Heights, Virginia on February 28, 2009. My prayer is that this message will encourage you in your walk with Christ and better equip you to lead your family.
Morning, guys. My name is Landon Norton, and I work with Logos Bible Software. How many of you have heard of Logos Bible Software? All right, Stefan's talked to me before. How many of you have it already? One, okay. One person. Stefan, you have it, don't you?
Yes.
Yeah, all right, good. Well, let me tell you a little bit about myself. We'll get into the software. It's my privilege to travel around the country introducing this tool and training ministry leaders on how to use it. We fly a lot. You need frequent flyer miles. You need advice. Come see me. I'm in a plane once a week somewhere. But I get to be with some of the best men's leaders, women's leaders, church leaders, ministry leaders across the country. And I'm going to give you the same training that I give them. So I'm looking forward to that. I hope you guys are excited about today. It's going to be fun. Let me tell you a little bit about Logos. If you've never heard about us, we are the world's largest Bible technology company. And what we do is we take the books that you use for Bible study and we put it on a computer. And we make it really easy to use. You guys like the word easy when you're talking about computers? Huh? All right, well, we have three main goals. Number one, we want to be the best. I think all of us guys want to be the best, right? You want to be the best dad, you want to be the best husband, we want to be the best software company. And so we've got about 200 employees now whose full-time jobs it is to come up with cutting-edge tools for you to study the Bible better. And that's all we do. It's all about Bible study at Logos Bible Software. We want to help the church experience the Bible in the way it was written. How many of you realize that it wasn't written in English? Okay, yeah. To study the Bible the way that it was written and to study the words and understand the meaning so that we can then apply the meaning of the Bible to our lives, we have to know the Greek and Hebrew. And to get into that, it makes it really easy in Logos. We're going to talk about that today. I like to use this example of doing Bible study in English is like water skiing. How many of you guys water ski? You like it? I still haven't been able to get up. But the point of that is we're just skimming the surface with English. And that could be translated, I think now up to 400 different English translations. But with the tools that Logos provides, we can scuba dive into the depths of God's Word. And that's where the Greek and Hebrew tools are really going to come alongside you. Thirdly, we want to be your all-encompassing library system. All of these libraries that I'm going to talk about today are built on the Libronics digital library system. Libronics is the standard means for electronic publishing in theological titles, Bibles, commentaries, theology textbooks, and all that. I'm going to show you one of the collections that we sell. This is about the middle of the road price-wise. It's the first level where you start to get Greek and Hebrew on board, though. That's why I show this one. I want to show you how easy it is to do Greek and Hebrew studies. I didn't go to Bible college. I didn't do seminary. We're going to be studying Greek today. It's pretty cool. But this library has over 330 volumes in it. It's got English Bibles, Greek and Hebrew texts, Bible commentaries, topical Bibles, study tools, word studies, church history, culture, Bible culture. How many of you realize to understand the Bible, you got to kind of put yourself in the place of the person they were writing to or talking to. That's what those tools will help you do. Theology, pastoral resources. How many of you are pastors or teachers, weekly ministry leaders? Okay, good. There's those titles in there. Bible study training. How do you study the Bible? This is a great tool, but you kind of have to know how to get started. With Logos, it's really easy because all you have to do to get started is click go. If you want to know how to use the software, I tell people, type in what you want to study, click go. Most of the time it's a passage. Type in Romans 8:28. Type in Job 1. Whatever you're preaching, teaching on, whatever you want to learn about, type it in, click go. If it's word studies you want to do, ever heard a great sermon on like the English word love and how it's used in the Bible? There's 5 different Greek words that they used to use: brotherly love, all-encompassing love, unconditional love, these different types of love. You can type in love, click go, we'll do your Greek and Hebrew lookup for you. So we're going to show you some tools on how to do that. Topic studies. This is pretty simple. You want to learn about salvation? You want to learn about predestination? You want to learn about the tabernacle? You want to learn about a person in the Bible? Type them in, click go. We'll look them all up. There's some other tools on this homepage I want to introduce you to that are really exciting men about this tool because it becomes a way for you to practice your spiritual disciplines. Bible reading. You need to be in the Bible every day. I have a Bible plan set up. I'm trying to memorize Psalm 119. And so I'm reading it over and over again. I'm on my third time reading through it. So I set it up to where I read each one of those parts of Psalm 119 every day. And so when I open up Logos, get my cup of coffee, click on my reading right there, and it'll open up my Bible to that section, whichever translation I told it I wanted to read from. In this case, it was the ESV. And I read through, make my notes, try to memorize, and things like that. I'm up to about 12 or 13 verses now, so. But don't put me on the spot. I'll give that later. But so you can set up your own reading plan, which is nice. So it's right in front of you. It's current with where you're at. If you're behind, you can catch up. If you want to read ahead, you can do that. There's a section for daily devotionals. How many of you want to incorporate more time in devotion each day? Today's devotion pops up right there on the homepage. So you can practice that spiritual discipline of getting in the Bible, spending time in devotions. You pick your favorite devotional. These have Oswald Chambers, Spurgeon, Moody. You pick the one you want, shows up on your homepage. There's a section on prayer. One of the spiritual disciplines is prayer, right? We want to be in prayer. You can keep notes on what you're praying about on the right. Before I came to this conference all year, I've been praying about iron sharpens iron as a whole. You know they're doing this in 37 different cities this year? It's exciting. How many of you have been to an ISI before? Okay, all right, good. And then on the left, there are books on prayer. So these are books in my library on prayer. You got John MacArthur, you got R.C. Sproul, Warren Wiersbe, all these great authors are in these libraries. And you pay about a dime on the dollar what it would cost in paper. And you get to carry it around with you if you're going around. That's one of the great things about this. You take these libraries home, you get a whole bunch of books. Some of them you don't know what they're about. We tell you in the Book of the Day section, one random book each day. So you can learn a little bit about what's in your library, what tools are at your disposal. Down here in the news section, when you're online, we'll tell you about new books that are coming up in this system. In Libronics, you'll see that's the program I've opened up. In Libronics, there are over 10,000 different books you can pick from. Think of Libronics as like Amazon for Bible study books. We have enough to offend anybody. I mean, you pick the books you want, buy the books, put them on your hard drive. The software updates are free. Libronics is totally free. But you need the books in there so that Libronics can search them and find the material. That's really what it's about. The number one excuse men give for not doing more Bible study, what did we say earlier? Time, right? We're busy. We got a lot of things to do. Well, spend a little time in God's Word. It'll be totally redeemed. I hope you know that. And so what we do is we take that excuse completely away. You spend your time studying as opposed to finding. I think one of the reasons why the church is not doing more Bible studies because we realize it takes a lot of tools, takes a lot of time, takes a lot of training, sometimes learn how the books work, things like that. The go button takes all that away. So you've got the resources you need on a click of the button. So we're going to show you how cool and how easy it is to do that. Let's start with the topic and then we'll go from there. Anybody got a topic in mind, something you've been studying lately? You want me to think of one? You guys not having enough church? Not had enough Starbucks yet? Church. Reads through your library, finds any articles on church. So you click on a book, and we'll take you, basically the first books are going to go right to the Word of God. We want to take you directly to what the Bible says about church, what the Bible says about salvation, what the Bible says about marriage, things like that. Marriage is a good example because you see, as I click go, reads through and it finds all the books on marriage. Bible verses that talk about where it was divinely instituted. In Genesis, it was a covenant relationship. They talk about that in Malachi. It's designed for the happiness of man. All right, guys? That's biblical. You're supposed to be happy. Or at least it was designed for it, right? But look down below these articles that you have. You notice there are some other articles, too, that aren't exactly what we typed in. Bride and bridegroom. Civil law and justice, family life and relations. Here's, in Bible times what the family in Bible times. But I didn't type in family life, did I? I typed in marriage. Try this on Google. I tell people we're going to Google for theology, put in, click go. We find the material and we make it a click away. Go type marriage on Google and hit search. See if you find articles on divorce. See if you find articles on family life. See if you find articles on bride and bridegroom, what those theories are in the Bible. You're not going to do that. It finds everything on marriage and nothing else, right? With Logos, we kind of associate articles together. So if you're typing in, apocalypse or eschatology or something like that, you're going to find all those articles. Day of the Lord, death, end of the world, eschatology, all these different things that are associated with that. So I tell guys, you don't have to think of everything. You don't have to rely on your mind to remember everything that you need to go look up. And you've got your whole library with you wherever you go. That's kind of the idea of what we're talking about. Word studies. Let's do the word peace. Let's say you wanted to study the English word peace. That Go button does what we've surveyed to be about 10 or 15 hours worth of Greek and Hebrew study. It looks up the English word, finds it in the Bible, and shows you all the articles that talk about that word, define the word, show you illustrations, quotations on it. This report has 4 basic sections. Number 1 is the definition. We want to make sure you know what the word means in English before we get going studying it in Greek and Hebrew. It means a state of tranquility or quiet, freedom from civil disturbance. So below that you have key links. These are books that are in my library that talk about peace, even the Greek concept of peace. A Harper's Bible Dictionary article on peace. If I click more, you'll see in my Scholars Library, I've got tons of resources that talk about that. So you're basically looking through your entire library every time you study. And that's really, really the power of Logos.
You keep talking about the library that you've got there, is that included in the package, or is that stuff you have to get separate?
No, all of these books would be included in this level. And we'll talk about some of the different levels, which books are in which box and that kind of thing. But as you add to your library, as you buy books through the years, you don't have to pay for them in paper, you don't have to read them, you put them on your hard drive. We find them when you click go. That's the idea. So these are books that are in my library, in this case the Scholars Library, that are on peace. So topical textbooks, Strong's Lexicon, Hebrew words that were used to find into peace and all that. Go ahead.
Great keyword searches. I'm wondering, how does it work with topics that are conceptual, such as, I'm not interested in just bitterness, I'm interested in overcoming bitterness, the application aspect of it.
We don't take a stance on how you're supposed to apply things.
But I mean, if I type in overcoming bitterness under topic, what is it going to find?
Bitterness, it's going to find things.
Right.
There's probably articles and topics and books in here that talk about that. So you could go and find those materials, read them, study them, apply them, those kind of things. Sure, absolutely. Let's go back and type that in just to see for fun. I don't know if bitterness would really be a biblical topic. Yeah, here we go. Bitterness or jealousy. Water of. Okay, that's a ritual. Yeah, the idea of this tool is really to find the material with which you're going to study and learn how the Bible teaches us to overcome bitterness, so that then you can go apply it. So you're going to find Greek instances of the word, Hebrew instances of the word. You're going to find commentaries that talk about certain verses that talk about that, which help you apply that, word studies, all those kind of things. So it's going through there and it's finding that. So I would start with probably some word studies on that, a bitter frame of mind, okay, and study these different places where it's talking about it. Do not let the sun go down in your anger. Okay, there's a biblical idea that we are to apply in our life, those kind of things. Does that make sense? Does that kind of answer your question? Let me show you on this word study tool below. I told you we found all these on Greek and Hebrew. We built a book that is really exciting and revolutionary. This pulled it up to that same verse. But this is a reverse interlinear that tells us what the Greek or Hebrew word is underneath that English word. So I can still read this Bible. In fact, this has become probably my preferred version just because in Logos I can do much with it. But that's that we look at, if you scroll down here below, to find all of those Hebrew words that were used to translate into peace. See what I mean about skimming the surface? You're studying the word peace and you're trying to teach on this verse that talks about peace. If you're not getting down to that level where which Hebrew word is it? What does that Hebrew word mean? How did they use it back then? What did the Hebrew hearer think of when they heard that word? What kind of idea did it bring to their mind? How did they apply that? Those are the kind of things you can study with this. And all you have to do it is click. So you're going to find, there's all the places where shalom was used. That's I just clicked on it enough to know. But if you don't know Hebrew, you just click on the root word, and we'll show you all the articles that talk about it. We'll show you how it was translated into the English. Basically, with a click of the button, you can start digging deeper and deeper into that Greek and Hebrew without knowing the language. Because we basically just tied the Greek and the Hebrew to the English so that you don't have to go and find out what that word is and how to look it up. Seem pretty cool, huh? You guys excited? I call this the Bible study roller coaster. You need to be saying ooh and ah. I'm just kidding. Let's do a verse. That's usually where we get most of our questions and kind of normally where we're spending our time. And normally when we're doing Greek and Hebrew study, we're starting from an English verse, right? We're usually not just picking a word at random. We're probably studying a text either to preach on or something that you've been doing in your small groups, things like that. Type in a verse. You'll start to see this box drop down. If I type in Roma, you'll see, okay, it says you're going to Romans. What part of Romans do you want to go to? So when you see that box drop down at your computer at home, basically it's all it's telling you is here's a out of that book. And if you want to go to 1, 2, 3, notice I don't have to finish typing Romans. I can type in 3, and it says, okay, what part of Romans 3 do you want to study? So you can pick this whole story about Paul's answers. Paul answers an objection in Romans 3, 1 through 8. The reason I show that box dropping down is because you can type in the story of the Bible if you don't know where the verse is. David and Goliath is a great example. Does anybody remember where David and Goliath is in the Bible? 1 Samuel, the pastor in the room, he remembers. Right? The rest of us are like, I know it's in there, right? Hey, David and Goliath, we find the story. There it is. Click it in there, and we'll study 1 Samuel 17. Pretty cool, huh? And you don't even have to know how to spell it. If you want to find out where John the Baptist preaches in the desert, for you Southerners, preaches is I don't know how. But isn't that great? I mean, if you had to remember how to spell all those Old Testament books, you'd only study the book of Job. Am I right? Come on, okay, he kind of crackled there. He kind of broke a smile there. He's a tough cracker. So you type in the verse. How is the other way that we try to remember a verse? We either know the story, or maybe we know what? A word, maybe a key word, maybe a couple of words in the verse. There's this verse that talks about faith, hope, and love. Let's click this little magnifying glass up here to find a verse. This is a speed search. You ever need an answer? I call Logos the answer machine. This is what Mike was talking about this morning. Where's that verse that talks about this and that? Well, you type in those words, faith, hope. Watch this. By the time I get done typing it, there are the verses that have those 3 words in there. In whatever translation I'm studying. My base translation is NIV. So if you're like me and you grew up with the NIV and you remember more of you just click it over to the NIV and it automatically finds the verses in that translation. So it speed searches one Bible at a time. And you can search across multiple Bibles. There's all sorts of stuff. If we had all day, I could show you A to Z with this thing. But basically, the idea I want to get across is you type in what you want to study, you click go. And I usually show, in the workshops, I show Matthew 28, 18 through 20. Okay, this is the Great Commission. If I don't remember where it is in Matthew, or I don't know which book has the Great Commission in there, maybe there's more than one gospel, I can do what? Type in Great Commission. So there you go. There it is in Matthew 28, Mark 16, Luke 24, right? And even found the other commissions. Isaiah's commission. God commissions Joshua. It's basically searching those stories real quick. So I can say, hey, yeah, this is the one I want. Click on it and then do what? Click go. You got it. Now what's happening on the left is that it's looking through my library. It's going through all the books in my library. You have, however many you've added. If you've got 300 or 3,000, it's going to look through those books and find any that have anything to do with the Great Commission in Matthew. Think about reading every book in the Bible College Library every time you study a verse. That's the equivalent of what we just did.
You keep talking about adding books. Is this online or is this a CD?
No, you own the books. You would buy the books. They come on a DVD, usually, nowadays, and there's thousands of books on there. Whatever library you buy, so if you bought this Scholars Library, you would own 330 of those books.
They'd be in there.
NIV, the Warren Wiersbe's B series, all those books I was talking about, right. These would be copied over to your hard drive. So if I'm on a plane, which I told you I do a lot, I've got my Bible studies with me. My whole library goes with me. I was with Charles Stanley about a year ago, and I was kind of kidding with him. We were on his cruise to Alaska. If you ever get a chance to do that, it's a great trip. But I'm, just trying to make this point come home. Dr. Stanley, if you think about bringing your whole library from your office to this, for a lot of years, that was the best they had. And the books got better, and they got shorter, and they got quicker, right? But you still had to read them. You still had to research them. So he hires a research staff of people that copy pages for him. He dreams. The new model of doing this is computer age. That's where we're at today, right? I mean, you're probably not in this room if you don't have a computer, I would guess. So you're there already. We're trying to get you to the material faster. That's the idea.
Once you establish that, you get the other books. How do you go about getting them? Do y'all send out another?
Getting more books? Oh yeah. We make it very obvious to you all the books you don't own yet. We sell books. We create software that read the books, that search the books, that can, do all that kind of stuff. But the software is free. You just pay for the books you want. So you can go from one box to the next one. You can buy one book at a time. Next time you're in the Christian bookstore, look for that little Lebronix logo. That little red and white icon that you can kind of see up there that's installed on your machine. You see how I've got that icon here? That Lebronix icon means that those books seamlessly integrate with the ones I got at Iron Sharpens Iron. And so you'll see a box that's got David Jeremiah on the front, or Charles Stanley, or Max Lucado, or J. Vernon McGee. Even all those books are available in Lebronix. And that's what we're talking about, being that system, that all-encompassing library system. We want you to go to logos.com for a book, copy it to your hard drive every time you travel around, or if you want to search it, or copying and pasting it. I love showing this. We're all, probably, I'll open up a Word document. This is a research tool. So we're hoping that even though you're studying it for yourself, that you're also teaching others. So maybe you're writing handouts, maybe you're sending emails out, or whatever the case may be. So since you've got the book in your library, let's click on this Bible exposition commentary. Let's say I want to take this article about scholars equating this mountain meeting in Galilee with the appearance later that Paul writes about in 1 Corinthians, to the of the Lord to 100 brethren at one time. They're saying that this is that mountain meeting. So let's say I want to make that point in my class, or maybe I want to just keep a note on that or something. We'll just do this first sentence. So you know how to do that? Drag your mouse over the text and you highlight it. And then I'll right-click and I'll copy it, right? Put it on your little invisible clipboard. Go over to your Microsoft Word document, right-click, paste it in. Nice and easy. You don't have to type it. You don't have to have the book next to you. Look what we do, though, further. This is where seminary graduates start crying. Yeah, it saves you. Well, I remember having to do bibliography in college and stuff like this. Does it for you. So you pick the citation reference. I had a guy at my booth today saying, does this have Turabian? I mean, it's almost like pulling teeth to try to do a Turabian citation reference that most seminaries want. Well, we do it automatically for you. But for the everyday person, this is nice, because if I'm building notes on a passage or something, maybe something I want to preach on, maybe something I'm just studying, if I'm copying and pasting and not putting this information, I have no clue where I got that paragraph. My dad is a pastor, and he gives these handouts out in his small group on Sunday night, and they're equipped all week to go away and take this study and expand it and go further, because they know where you got the material. And if you're writing a sermon that you're coming back to 5 years from now, you're going to brush up and preach it again, you want to know where you got this. But some pastors have asked us to take it away. They want to lay claim to that spiritual insight that they got. I don't know why. No, I'm just kidding.
If you buy one library and you've got a computer at the office, one at home, and a laptop, put it on all three?
Yeah, good question. We'll cover some of those technical issues and stuff at the end, but for sure, yeah, it's your library, so you can reinstall it on any machine you ever buy. You can have it on up to 2 at one time that you personally use for your use. So if you've got a laptop at work that you travel with and a desktop at home, that's totally fine, yeah. Even PC, you buy one library, get it on both machines. So that's kind of the look and feel of Logos. I mean, really, that's as easy as I can make it. I mean, that's the training I gave Dr. Stanley. That's the training I gave Dennis Rainey. I mean, it's type it in, click go. You've got your first, so you click on a commentary it up down here. Your Bible stays open in the top right, whichever is your preferred version. If you want to go to another translation really quickly, watch this. I can click on the Bible here, make it active, make that the active window. Do you kind of understand Microsoft Windows? Active window, a Bible window, I can use, for some of you guys that have logos, this is a power. These little ones down here kids use for games. All right, yeah, your little tap games. There you go. So I can go to those other translations real quickly. Or whatever. I use the New American Standard for this one reason alone. How many of you have ever been reading along in the English translation? Maybe you're in church or something, you're reading along in your paper Bible and you say, boy, I'd love to know what that Greek word is for love here, or I'd love to know what that Greek or Hebrew word is. Have you ever done that to you? And you say, boy, I have to remember to look that up. Well, with Logos, I can set up my New American Standard or my King James, because they have the Strong's numbers in them. I can set it up to when I hover my mouse on the English, the Greek definition pops up for me right there.
Did not do that for the ESV?
Not yet. No, we're getting there. And the reverse interlinear skips the Strong's numbers and goes right to the Greek word anyways. So you've got that pretty much built in. I like this because it's a brief, quick, oh, okay, that's agapao or phileo. You know, those kind of differences on the love or whatever. If you want to know a word, I'm with you always. Well, what is this idea of always? Okay, it's basically two words, pas, hemera. And so you could say, okay, what's he talking about here when he says always? What does that mean? That's a big word. You can really quickly find out what that is. Now, we're going to do a lot more with the Greek and Hebrew when we click on this exegetical guide. That's going to go through and do all our Greek and Hebrew study on this one verse. But I love that feature about the NASB and the King James, because I can real quickly find it. Try this in your paper Bible. Read along in your English text, stop your mind on an English word, and see if the Greek pops up. If it does, we got to talk, okay? Seriously.
Like when you're hovering over that always that you were just a moment ago, could you do that again?
Sure.
See the pop-up window? And despite the fact that I did complete school, I have no idea what the word declension in the very top line there means. Is there a link that gets me to where I can actually understand the 50-cent words that I've never run into?
I call this power reading. If I come across an English word that I don't understand, in Logos, you double-click on something, it looks that word up for you. So if I double-click on a Greek word, it goes to a Greek dictionary. If I double-click on a Bible verse, it opens up a Bible. If I double-click on an English word, it opens up an English dictionary. So that's a pop-up. I can't double-click on the pop-up. I would have to actually have the text open, which we can do really easily. If I right-click on this word always, I can go down to the selected references. There's two different references, right? Pause is the first one, Greek 3956. I can actually pull up the Strong's lexicon. Instead of just hovering and previewing the lexicon, I actually go to it. So now we've opened up another book in our library, and I've got the word right there. So I can double-click on declension. Anytime I come across a word, I do this all the time. I double-click on it, it takes me right to the definition. It's a grammatical inflection. So it's what it's saying is it's talking about all the inflections of that word in the definition. I use this when I'm in a Bible verse. What's that? Learned a new word today. Yeah, see? I do this when I'm in a Bible verse all the time. We're talking about where was I last week at this men's conference at Precept? Genesis 37. I think it was 12. Yeah, okay, here we go. Then the brothers went to pasture their father's flock in Shechem, right? And it was talking about, okay, the story about Joseph being sold to the slaves in Egypt. Okay, so I'm reading along, and I don't know where Shechem is. I don't know where that place is. I call this power reading. I have it set up to where when I double-click on an English word, it first goes to, I had it set up to where, I'll change this so that I can say that I actually do this. In my options, I can pick which books it looks up an English word in. The first book that it looks up an English word is what? You read that? Merriam-Webster's dictionary, right? We want to teach you what the English word means. Set it up to where I put like a Bible dictionary at the top of the list. So it goes to a Bible dictionary so that I can, when I'm reading the Bible and I come across an English word that I don't know, like Shechem, it's now going to look that up in my Bible dictionary. You see how if you're reading along the English text and you say, where's Shechem? Who's Haggai? Where is Canaan? You can click on it real quick and find out, okay, here's a city that was located 41 miles north of Jerusalem. So I'm kind of getting there. Okay, I understand where they're talking about. It's in a pass between Mount Ebal and Mount Gerizim. Do you remember when the story occurs and Jacob sends Joseph out to check on his brothers? Think about that. Go into the time period. He's having to walk by himself up through this mountain pass, to kind of get to him. It helps you kind of get into the picture of where you're at, what's going on. Not just, I don't know if it's just me, but growing up in church every week, it became almost like you knew the story, so you didn't really think about what it was like. And I think that's really kind of the testimony I have today, is that as you spend a little bit of time, even if it's not a lot, you're going to start to gain those insights that are really going to help you start transforming your life like we were talking about. That's really what I'm here to help you do today. I don't make a commission. I don't care if you buy the software or not. I want to show you, equip you on how you can do it every other day of the year, not just Sunday. That's kind of my testimony. I grew up thinking, my relationship with God was through church on Sunday. It's not. It's through a personal, consistent, devoted time in the Word of God. And every pastor will tell you that. They're not expecting to give you everything you need on Sunday. It's the other days of the week. And so what we're trying to do is make it easy for you so you don't have any excuses about, hey, it takes a lot of time to get to that. Look what we've been able to do in just, really 30 minutes, All right, so anyways, let's move on. I'll show you some of these other things you're going to want to see. Cross-references is probably the most important section of this whole thing, because you can go to a commentary and see what other people have said about this verse. But if you want to know what God said about this verse, you need to see the totality of the Bible. And cross-references really help us to see how Bible interprets the Bible. You realize that the Bible is completely self-sufficient in teaching you about itself. This is one of the ways you can really learn. And so what it does is it shows you all the other Bible verses that are related to the Bible verses you're studying. So you can quickly see, here are some of these other Bible verses. Daniel 7:14, I can hover on that. And it says, to him was given dominion, glory, and a kingdom. Who's he talking about here? And to him was given dominion. Daniel's talking about Messiah. He's prophesying about him. And Jesus is saying, well, go back to our verse here, sorry. Jesus came up and spoke to them saying, all authority has been given to me in heaven and on earth. Daniel talked about that hundreds and hundreds of years before that. And Jesus is just saying, hey, when he was talking, it was me. That's what these cross-references will help you do. And if you don't want to hover on them one at a time, I'm on a plane and the turbulence is hitting and I can't stay on the thing. I do this. I left click and I highlight all these verses. And for you guys that are teaching or preaching, or maybe you want to print out a list of this, watch this. Instead of looking up every verse, we have a tool in the right click menu that automatically looks them up. See where it says auto lookup? I click there and it automatically pulls a list out of that highlight. I can do this anywhere in my library. If I'm in a Bible dictionary, if I'm in a commentary, and I want to list all those cross-references, I can do that real quickly. So that excuse about not having time to look up all those cross-references, it becomes almost where I'm reading a paper book and they have a cross-reference in there, and I'm kind of mad I don't have the electronic version because I could just hover my mouse on the Bible verse and be refreshed on what that cross-reference is. So it's almost to the point where now I'm saying, do you have that in electronic version? Because I can do all these kind of things with that. Biblical people. This is one of the best parts about the libraries today, I think. Ever come across the person's name and you're like, who is this guy? Right? Where does he fit in the Bible? If their name occurs in the text, in our text of these 3 verses, if their name occurs in the text, we'll put them in the center box here and we'll show you all the relationships they had with other people in the Bible. And give you the Bible verses too. So you don't just, randomly find out that, oh, there's his father Joseph. We show you down here in these Bible verses where we found this out. This took 2 years at Logos. We had a guy go through and look up every single one of the 3,600 names in the Bible. And they built this little graph on there so that when you click go, it shows you real quickly. And they're all interactive too, so you can see, like, I like showing David. Here you go. Jesus is in the family line of David. We found that out in Matthew 1 and 17. You can click on David or anybody else's name, and we'll pull up that person's chart, show you the Greek and Hebrew words for David, all the Bible verses that talk about David, where we found out he was the son of Jesse, or to go to SeaWorld and still see Shemua. I don't know if you... But this is pretty cool. This is just phenomenal. You talk about a central figure in the Bible and why so many dysfunctional families there were in the Bible. There were some pretty screwed up relationships in there. You can see sometimes, boy, these things get all pretty weird. Pretty cool stuff, though. And you can copy and paste this. If I wanted to put this image in my PowerPoint or my handout or whatever, I mean, everything is cut and paste. So you can put all that thing in there. You can trim out the parts you like. I mean, you can do anything you want with it. Pretty cool, huh? Any questions about that? Basically, if the person's name in there, that'll automatically look it up for you. There's so much in here. Parallel passages. This will line up the story in the other Gospels. So if I want to see, where this story occurs in the other Gospels, I can see there it is in Matthew, and then Mark, and then Luke. It's allusions in the New. I was listening to Mark Driscoll's one of his last podcasts coming up here this morning. I drove up from Newport News, where my buddy lives, and he was talking about the fact that there are over 4,000 allusions to issues in the Old Testament that are made in the New Testament. These churches that are like, well, yeah, the Old Testament's really not applicable today. Well, if it's not applicable today, why was it applicable when the New Testament was written? And the New Testament is the one they're studying, saying, hey, we want to be a New Testament church. Well, to know the New Testament, you got to know the Old Testament. So these are the kind of tools that help you see, all right, the quotations and the allusions. Here's the allusion we're talking about in Daniel 7:14, right? He's alluding to Daniel when he says this. That's the whole point. So you can see that really easily. Compare versions is a tool that compares a parallel Bible for you. We don't even have the Old Testament. It's got 3 or 4 translations I like, maybe 1 or 2. I don't really care, but when they came together, I pick in Logos my parallel Bible. And when I type in a verse and click go in the Scholar's Library, it'll compare them for me. It shows me how similar or how it's a scatter plot. So if they're similar, it puts the close. If they're different, it puts them apart. I use this in my small group every week because everybody else has got a different translation. I've got all of them there. I can quickly compare and translate and see the differences. By seeing, I mean this. Look here. I call this the Roger Clemens or the Barry Bonds Parallel Bible. We took your normal one and we just juiced it up a bit. Allegedly, sorry. You click on the NASB next to it and we show you. So if you do have a parallel, you can relate to this. You're in the sermon and you're jumping back and forth across the page, right, trying to figure out what the different translations say and get kind of an insight into this Greek or Hebrew words through all translations. This shows you exactly where those translation differences are and gives you ideas as to what's going on here. I love to show verse 19. Verse 19, okay, the New American. It's white, that means it's wording in each of those translations. In the King James, it says teach. See how it color codes the differences? Instead of saying making disciples, it says nations. So if I'm reading the King James, it tells me to go and teach. If I'm reading the Standard, Jesus tells me go and make disciples. Is that the same thing? Probably not. You could probably come up here and teach for the rest of the 30 minutes and we'd all get something out of it. But there's no way you're going to be able to make disciples of us today. Right? This is a mountaintop experience today. We're hoping you go home, meet with guys, get in the Word, disciple others, baptizing in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. That's the idea of the Great Commission. All right, well, what am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to make disciples or am I supposed to teach? Because I can go and teach. I can go to the mission field and teach for 3 days, and I can go home and feel a lot better about myself because I'm a King James guy. Well, to find out what Jesus is telling me to do, can I find this out in English, or do I need to go somewhere else to find out what word he used and what that means? We got to get into the Greek, right? English translations aren't going to help us to figure out the difference there. You're going to find differences throughout your study. You're going to say, okay, what am I supposed to do here? Observing bitterness. You're going to have different word differences in there. So you're going to have to go to the Greek and Hebrew to find out what that word means so that you can figure out how to apply that. We'll get back to that. Remember that difference. So that's compare versions. It'll compare the different English translations for you. Maps, this is cool. Got a whole set of maps in every single one of our libraries, so we will find maps that relate to your verse. You can click on that and actually go to the Bible Times event. Where it happened. The number which is doing is, number 1, there's the resurrection. Okay, and then number 2, the report of the Roman guards, right? They went back and they reported this. You can even click on some of these and open up other maps. So if you want to see the Temple Mount, you just click on it. If you want to, see it from the front, you want to go into the inner courts, you can click on some of these numbers and go in there and actually see what the Temple Mount looks like. You talk about going to the Bible Times. Maps and photos and all these images and things are built in here, so you can really do that. And you can see here, I've also got a table of contents. So if I wanted to get lost in some of these other maps, I could go through here and click around. So other temples. I'm in Herod's Temple Mount. Here's the Mosaic Tabernacle. If you want to see what that temple looked like, you can actually go in and look at the inner chamber there. Now, this is the Holy of Holies in there. But unless you're the senior pastor, then once a year, right, they wash up, click in there. Don't let your unsaved friends be playing with logos. If they click, pillar of salt, I don't know, it's... Thank Jesus we have a high priest, amen? Don't have to worry about that. Music, we'll look up the hymnals. You got a hymnal built in here. So if there's hymns or stories about hymns that talk about Matthew 28, you've got them all in here. Here's one, Christ arose. So I've got the lyrics to the verse. I've even got the was by your United States tax dollars. And no, it wasn't a stimulus package bill. We're trying to get that in there. But no, the United States Army gives every one of their chaplains a chaplain's library. We basically just put some Jewish titles and other things that they need for chaplaincy in there. And they got a full college library, Bible college library on their laptop. They don't have a rucksack. They can take 300 books of library over there in a field and try to do ministry and sermon prep and all these kind of things, right? But they do have a laptop. And if they want to go ahead and say, all right, let's stand and sing, then click on that. You guys want to sing? Oh, never. Okay, you guys are a tough crowd this morning. All right. But that's pretty neat. Music, leadership resources. You can create your own collections. I've created a collection of leadership resources. Since those aren't, indexed by Bible verse, it's hard to pull up a book on how to be a better father or how to be a better Christian leader by a Bible verse. But I can read through here. I've made a collection. You can learn how to do this in Logos. And what it does is it looks through those books to find any place where they talk about that verse. So here's one on when to take a risk. Here's one on leaders. So 8, setting priorities. Okay, they mention Matthew 28. So I'm saying, oh, okay, here, based on these what specific things would you do to equip your leaders? That revolves around these passages. So if I'm in Christian leadership, because I want to be a better father, I want to be a better church leader. So those are the kind of ideas of, and you can create collections of authors. I've got all of John Piper's books in here now, and so I've created a collection of that. If you ever want to see what Jeremiah or Piper or some of these guys said about that, just build a collection, type it in, click go. You don't have to remember what's in your library. I'll get free books from Logos and just put them on my hard drive. I don't care who wrote them. I don't care what it's about, because I can click go. I can't do that at my church library. Topics and illustrations, we'll pull out all the topics and the illustrations that are being taught about in this passage. So you can see here, there's a list of topics that we found Jesus is teaching about here. Heaven, Holy Spirit, missions, power, If you want to click on the 17 post-resurrections appearances of Christ, this is one of them, right? We can click on there. There's the other 7. I'll maximize that for you. There's the other 16, right? We're down here in Matthew, the 10th appearance to 11 disciples on the mountain in Galilee. But there's all the other ones too. So you can see, oh yeah, this is one of those. And all the Bible verses, of course, those are interactive, and you can cut and paste that if you want. That's pretty nice. And illustrations look the same way. So if you're preaching or teaching and you need an illustration on something that's being taught about in this passage, all of them are already listed for you. So you can go in there and you can say, I want one on baptism. Okay, there's 12 that are in my encyclopedia of 7,700. So I can open that up and see all of these different illustrations. Here's one about a wealthy lady from the East who made many trips to Salt Lake City to be baptized for the dead. You realize that Mormons believe that I can go and be baptized for somebody who's already died, and that person then moves into heaven and all that good stuff. She did it 30,000 times. Very kind woman, right? I mean, she was really missional. And so people like Alexander the Great, Nebuchadnezzar, Julius Caesar. A Mormon elder commented, I believe that this lady in the day of judgment through being baptized for the dead has saved more souls than Jesus. So if you need a good illustration about a waste of time, there you go. A lot of people are going to be a little surprised that didn't work. So anyways, you get the idea. And you can customize this list all you want. If you're not needing illustrations, take it out. If you want to add a collection, put it in there. You can completely customize this whole list. And I call this kind of the 10,000-foot view of your library with clicks to anything underneath you. That's kind of the idea of what this does. You see how this could really impact the time you spend in the Bible? You're not having to find all this stuff. You've got it all at a finger's click. And we are all about having it right now. Are we not, America? Yeah. That's what we're trying to do. All about the Bible. Now, that's the English side of things. Look, think what we've done in just the last 20 minutes alone since I started this. We went through the commentaries, looked at the cross-references, printed out a list of all those if we wanted to, right? Compared to different versions, looked up the biblical people, played around with David. Think about all that stuff you're able to do in just a couple of minutes. Now, if I want to go further, I told you we were going to go into the Greek and Hebrew. One further step, this is probably the most powerful tool in Logos, is the exegetical guide. And this is what you don't really get in the library that's below. This is really the first level where you start to get this power. We read through, if you read Greek or you speak Greek, or if you know Greek, you can have the Greek, you can have this run through the Greek. But I've changed this reverse interlinear, that book we were talking about earlier. It reads through the English and it highlights the words that it studies below. You see how it does word studies for me below? In 2 seconds, I can look up every single word in that whole text and have a whole word study on that below. If I gave you the rest of the day and the whole college library of resources at your disposal, how many words are you going to be able to look up in the Great Commission? 1, 2, maybe? You know what I mean? That's the idea. We've got all these great words. Now, I have it just doing the verbs. You notice how the words that are highlighted are just the verbs? It's not looking up every word. Just for speed's sake, I make it only do the verbs. I can click the properties box there. And I've taken out my Greek grammars because I don't know Greek, and my visualizations. We do the clausal analysis, show you where the primary clause is, secondary clause. I don't use all that. But I do the word-by-word studies every day, and I want it, for speed's sake, just to do the verbs. Because if I want to add a word, watch this. If I want to say, hey, that word always, where were we before? Here it is. If I want to study that word always, when I run the exegetical guide, all I have to do is click that word one time, and it adds that word study below. See where it says always? There's your 2 words. There's the pause, and it's showing me where those words occur in the New Testament. Now, we were talking about making disciples or teaching, right? We wanted to find out what Jesus is telling us to do. Let's go back there. So it goes verse by verse. So we're in 28:19. Okay, here it is. Making disciples, right? Remember, it might not be a verb in English. It is in Greek. Disciples is not an English verb, is it? That's why we had to add that little word make in there. The Greek word, this Greek word right here, means to follow or make followers of. You see that in black there? We call that the English gloss. And if anytime you see that ... means there's more in there. So it means also to instruct. We're finding that from the Dictionary of Biblical Languages. You do this all the time when you're with your kids or your wife or something like that, right? My daughter asked me, what does the word hope mean? Okay. Well, it means to have we're using other English words to explain that, right? I didn't spout off for her Webster's dictionary article on hope, right? I tell her other words that kind of mean that same thing that she sort of knows. That's what the English gloss does, so you can really quickly see what that word means. Like go, it means to go or travel. Baptizing means to wash or baptize. So you can get that idea. You can also look it up in the dictionary. So down below, I can actually click on these dictionaries, biblical languages in Greek. Lunita shows me all the places in the Bible. Intermediate Greek-English lexicon. Enhanced Strong's lexicon. Here's even the full unabridged theological dictionary in the New Testament. Has anybody heard of Kittle? Big Kittle, Little Kittle? We got all 10 volumes right in there. That's when Charles Stanley's jaw hit the ground. Because he's like, that's the whole set? You know, he's thinking 10 volumes takes up a whole shelf on my bookshelf. Okay, it's like, whoa. And we can just click on it and open it up. I don't have to know what this Greek word is. I can read all about it below that. Now, I'm not going to say that this is not in a little bit overwhelming, because most of us aren't doing Greek and Hebrew study. Most of us aren't even reading the Bible 1 hour a year. Go check Barna statistics if you want to know how bad we are in the church. It's not pretty. And so therefore what's happening is we don't know the Bible, so we can't do what? Back to what you were talking about. We can't what? Apply it. So 7% of born-again Christians are using a biblical worldview to make their decisions every day. 7% of us. That's like probably one person in this room. Don't hit your neighbor and say, I told you so. Let's get it up. Let's know the Bible. Let's learn the Bible so that we can then go stand for truth. We can't stand for truth in the marketplace because we don't know it. We get it on Sunday though, right? So we're full for the rest of the week, right? If you ate Cracker Barrel one time and didn't eat for the rest of the week, you'd be hungry, right? Feed yourself. Get in here. Click on this stuff. Learn more. Challenge yourself. It's really easy with logos. Look here. Let's learn about this word. We want to know what this is. Jesus is telling us to do this. All right. Here is the word matheteuo. In the Scholars Library, if you don't know how to say it, click there and it pronounces it for you. You hear that? No, that's not actually Jesus' voice. Okay, a lot of people have been asking. We tried to get him in the studio. He's sitting on a throne somewhere right now. So anyways, couldn't get him in there. But we got a guy read every single Greek word. And we're going to come out with one for Hebrew too pretty soon. So you can get that in the Scholars Library. Then below this, to find out what the word is and what it means, we need to study its tense voice mood. You familiar with this kind of idea? We need to know the tense of the verb. Is he talking to more than one person here? What is the mood of the verb? If you go through here, you can see that. And you can hover your mouse on here and find out what plural means. It means more than one person or thing. He wasn't just talking to the disciple in front of him. He was telling all of them, go and make disciples. You ever heard this preached? Yeah. Can you? Yeah, cool. Jesus. That's Erasmian. Biblical modern would probably be Jesus. Yeah. If you went to seminary, you would study Erasmian. That was probably... And we don't know exactly... You realize this? We don't know exactly how the Greek was at the time. You might have heard of this. The Koine Greek is as close as we can get, but there's really no verbal dialogue in Koine anymore. So we're not able to exactly know. So Erasmian is basically what we do to get there. So you've got the word there. You can learn what the word means. I always love showing this point right here because I learned this as I was teaching other people about logos. And I tell you all the time, I've learned more about the Bible with logos than I learned growing up in church. And this is one of those things. What does the imperative mood mean? If you forget 9th grade English, the imperative mood means what? I hover my mouse, we look it up in the glossary, and it says the mood that normally expresses a what? Command, right? So let's apply this. Jesus is suggesting that if you've got some time after the conference and the football game and that kind of stuff, if it's okay with you, you should probably take some time to make disciples of other people. Is that what he's saying here? No, what is he saying? Do it. Now, if you preach this in English, what's the imperative verb when I say, go get me a cup of coffee? What's the command? Go. Right? Have you ever heard a pastor get up there and say, Jesus is teaching us to what? Go. You are to go. Jesus is commanding. This is Jesus talking here. He says, go. You You ever heard this preached? I was at a conference the other day. I said, which is the most important word in this whole thing? What is the imperative mood? What is Jesus really telling us to do? And they all said, go. Look up here at go. Is that imperative? Nominative, plural, masculine, aorist, deponent. No. Yeah, it's a participle, so it doesn't have a mood, right? If you've heard this preached correctly, the terminology of this word, which is poriomai, is that you're always going. It's as you are going, you should what? Come on, guys, we're doing some Bible study here. We're to do what? We're always going. I'm going to get up, I'm going to go to Newport News tonight and hang out with my unsaved friend. Pray for me. Been working on this guy for 8 years. God has not called him yet, and I'm just feeling a little bit bitter about it because now I'm in another state, and I'm not able to witness to him like I should every day. But anyways, I'm going to get up and go. You're going to go home. You're going to go to church tomorrow. You're always going. What are we to do? What is the command, mood, verb? We are to matetiwo. Now I really want to know if it's to teach or make disciples. What am I supposed to do? Jesus has commanded me to do this. I need to know what it means. So that's when I get in here, click on the Kittle, start reading through all the New Testament outline of that word. Linguistic data. What did it mean? How was it used in the Old Testament when they went back and converted it into the Septuagint? All this kind of stuff. Now, that all comes, again, from what? We typed in Matthew 28, and we did what? Click go. So let's go back to the beginning. To know the software, to use the software, that's all you need to do. That's not my point today. My point is to say, hey, you can go further in a little bit of time. 10, 15 minutes, if you just came in here and said, hey, I got a verse on my mind. I heard it on the radio. I have a topic on my mind. I want to show you how it's so easy with Logos to be able to type that in, click go, go further. And that's really all that I leave for this 1 hour kind of introduction to it. So do you have questions and answers? I mean, do you have questions I'll try to have answers for about the tool? Thompson's chain reference is not. No, basically the script, the cross references do the same thing. No, but you can do that. You can diagram your sentences and even mark up the text, highlight it, things in there as well. Yeah, you can build your own sentence diagrams. We don't have a database of ones that are done for you. One of the things that Logos has really tried to do is stay out of the realm of teaching. We just want to be the place you go to learn. And you're going to use it to compare different translations, defend a point that you need and want to make. We don't really get in there and do the work for you. We give you the tools to do the work. We just cut the corners off of finding the material. We did surveys with pastors, and 70% of what pastors say sermon prep time is page flipping, book retrieval. I think it was you and I talking about this morning, wasn't it? No, it wasn't. It was somebody else who was saying, boy, you really lose all those tangential nuggets that you find. And I say, no, you don't. We'll still find all those nuggets, but it's on your passage. You would have never found that article on whatever because you wouldn't have even thought to open that book in your library or even remembered you had it. We got it all we could go. So that's kind of the idea. You guys were talking about the different boxes and things. Let me go through that. You may have some more questions as we go through that. There's different levels you can start with. You can always expand on this like we were talking about. You can upgrade from one library to the next. The Scholars is the one that I show. It's $629. It's got about $6,000 worth of books in it. So like I said, about a dime on the dollar for what the print book would cost you. It's got 21 English Bible versions in there. It's the first level with the Greek and Hebrew. That's why I show that. So you guys are spending your time with me as opposed to Stephen Kendrick. You're probably pretty serious about Bible study. You're going to want to be in the Greek and Hebrew. Greek pronunciation in there, like I said, the maps, charts, photos, timelines, all that stuff is in there. The Leader's Library is the one below this, and about half the price. It's a great start for anybody teaching or leading or just doing it in your home. I mean, I always kind of liken this to the Encyclopedia Britannica model where, you used to buy each volume and so that your kids could have this at their disposal whenever they needed to learn about something. That's what Logos is becoming for homeschoolers, for my Christian family. It's a resource where I can go to and have all this. And so it's a good start for you for sure. You get all the English Bibles, most of them anyways. Commentaries, the maps and charts are in there, the theology and doctrine are in there, the Christian leadership resources. Most everything we showed today, except for the Greek and Hebrew pronunciation and some of those lexicons, the Kittle is not in the Leaders, and the Barry Bonds Parallel Bible, that doesn't come in the leaders either. So just a couple of things. Almost everything else I showed, in fact, everything else I showed would be in the leaders. If you're a pastor or you want to get some more resources on top of the scholars, this is one level above the scholars. The silver is about 1,000, and you've got all these significant added resources. The New American Commentary by Brahman Holman is in there. If you're a pastor, some of these commentaries would be really helpful. The Early Church Father, this is all 37 volumes of the Nicene, post-Nicene, all that first century church history. If you ever want to read about what they interpreted a scripture as to begin this whole thing we know as Christianity today, that's a great place to go back as well. You get Kyle and Dalich in there, so you get some more resources, about 525 total. The gold is the biggest library. This is just the best value. It's the biggest library of books we sell at one time. It's about 800 books out of that 10,000. So this is the biggest one collection you can get at one time. It's about $12,000 worth of print books. And you get more commentaries, more encyclopedias. That Baker Encyclopedia of the Bible, whenever I click on a double, that's the first book I go to on my home computer. That Baker is really good. And it's got a whole section on apologetics. Everybody likes that too. It's current day apologetics, not like your Norm Geisler, Josh McDowell kind of stuff. It's defending against homosexuality, defending against euthanasia and stem cell research, these hot topic issues today. It's more of that kind of stuff. Want to know? You can put it on Windows 98, XP. It works on Vista. We've even got a brand new Mac version available. So if you're running Mac, you can do that. They didn't put the discs in my box for some reason, so Mac people will have to wait a couple days, but we'll ship it to you. It's no big deal. If you have Windows Vista, come up afterwards. We'll lay hands on you, pray for you. That always gets a couple people feeling good. You can put the software on any machine that you have, up to 2 at any one time for your own personal use. It's an individual library whose license goes with the user. So as you get a new machine, you can reinstall it anytime you need to. Video tutorials. Everything I showed you how to do today and so much more is on our website, free to you at any time. Just click on a video, how to do an exegetical guide or how to do a Bible speed search. Some of these things we showed, some of the things you're going to want to know. Free customer service for life as well. That's really nice. If you ever have problems, we're there to help you. You can buy it for somebody else. Everybody always asks me this. You know, I probably wouldn't use it, but I know my pastor would. I know my nephew in Bible college would. You can definitely buy this for them as well. We've now extended our installment plans out to go out 12 months. In the current economy, these are big investments, and I totally understand this. So I want you to know that we can break that out up to 12 months now. There's no hassle. Just run your card each month. Do have software here, so you don't have to pay for shipping. And for you Mac guys, I won't make you pay for the shipping on that either. 30-day money-back guarantee. This is huge. I mean, if your wife would not get a little bit upset that you went and spent $600 today, I would think you're probably not married. So take it home. Say, hey, look, I really want to commit to getting around the Word of God, and I think this is a tool that will help me do it. If it's not, I can take it back. I can send it back. No questions asked. If it's 31 days, if it's 33 days, we don't want your money. We want you studying the Bible. We just think this is the best way to do it for some people. So I tell people, no reason not to, right? Well, it's still pretty expensive. So for ISI, we knock the price off, and we give you our best price, our conference price. We did this last year here. We do this at all our events. 25% off is the least you'll see this stuff. So that knocks all these prices down that I was talking about. The leaders would only be $232. And that works out, if you do it every month, it would be about $28 a month. So I tell people, we're talking about Cracker Barrel. For one trip with my 4 to Cracker Barrel, each month, I just have to sacrifice that one meal. It really comes down to that, just to get started. Now, if you want to do the scholars, it'd be a little bit more. It's about $48. So for $20 more, you can get the Greek and Hebrew. If you're doing it on the payment plan, the $472 would be out the door. Of course, tax too. Silver works out to about $72 a month or $749. And then the gold is about $1,000 on sale or $98 a month. So if you want that value, it's about $100 a month. I love using this quote because this is a pastor I like. He talks about, Logos impacts me greatly and feeds my soul and equips me with the necessary tools to feed the soul of others. This is a pastor, but we should all be making disciples, right? I think this is just such nice, soft, loving language. But the funny thing is, it comes from the evangelistic linebackers. You guys ever see this guy? You ever see this? Go YouTube it. Evangelistic library. They use this guy. He used to play in the NFL. They use him as a tool on campus for people who aren't ministering to others. If you're balking on your opportunity to witness to others, out of nowhere, this linebacker will come and just hammer you. and tackle you down to the ground and tell you to get into the Bible. And it's awesome. Check it out on YouTube. It was one of the most popular downloads in the last 3-4 years. He's an awesome guy. But this is a tool that will really help you and also help others. So just something to end with. You guys got any other questions or anything like that?
How much space does it take?
Good question. Space is about 1.5 gigs for the scholars. The gold is 3 gigs. So everything is lower than that. It's mostly text files, so it's not like an iTunes library or something like that where you're really high media. But I think my library at home is probably about 15 gigs. Now I've got about 1,800 books or something like that. So.
Do you have to be online?
No. It helps to be, because some of the things that we do incorporate web tools. You can go out to sermoncentral.com and find out what they say about this passage. You can go out to powerpointsermons.com. But if you're not online, like if I'm on the plane, I've got all my books available. So there's no need to be online anytime. Now, if you want to do the software updates, remember I told you Libronics is free? If you go up to Tools, the first button in there is Libronics Update. If you're not online, it'll say, hey, do this when you're online. But I tell people once a month or so. We're always fixing things, patching things, making it work a little faster. Sometimes some of the content that we make available is free, and so you'll see that in the little Libronics update. But basically, the idea of Logos Bible Software is you buy the books you want, we'll pay for the software. So we're not coming back to you probably ever again to say you need to spend $150 to stay current. Whatever you own is going to work on any operating system you ever have. That's the commitment of Logos, which is really different than the other business models of like software teams and stuff like that.
Landon, you shared some of the daily devotionals that are available. When you're reading a daily devotional, do you get the same helps if you go double click in the text or do anything with those?
Yeah. Let's see here. Methodist. There's a good one. All right, what is a Methodist? What does that mean? I just double click on it. It's going to go through. It didn't find any of my Bible dictionaries because there were no Methodists in the Bible. But don't take offense if you're Methodist, but it looks it up in a dictionary for me. So it goes through those books that I ordered and tells me what that is. Remember, one of the denominations deriving from the Wesleyan revival. I actually had a guy at my table the other day whose name was John Wesley. Everybody was trying to take pictures with him. I didn't know why. Can you get my picture with?
And you have some of the devotionals are available in the library?
Yeah, this one, the Scholars, has 7 different devotionals, and anytime you want to customize which ones you have, like if you want 2, some people have 2 in here, you can see I can customize my home page. Kind of like you customize your internet pages, you can kind of pick the modules you have and things like that. Here's the devotionals. So if I wanted to switch over and do, Oswald Chambers' Utmost for His Highest, so there's 5. There's 5 in the Scholars Library. I can save the changes, and then it'll put Oswald Chambers' page here. So you pick. So I'm going to let you guys out. Oh, no, we got some more questions. Go for it.
I got one question.
Shoot.
Books that you purchase and put into your library, and you purchase a new computer, how do those books fit together?
You want to back up 2 folders on your hard drive. You want to back up My Documents, which keeps all your notes, your collections, all the customizations you've done, your personalizations in Libronics. It keeps those under My Documents, Libronics DLS, Digital Library System. So if you back up My Documents folder, you'll have that. When you copy it over to the new machine, everything will come over, all your notes and all that kind of stuff. The other folder that you want to back up is the one under the Program Files side. So you go to C, Program Files, Libronics. There's a folder in there called Resources. Resources folder has all your books in one place. So yeah, I've got a stack of like 12 discs, at home or whatever, more than that, from Logos that they've given me through the years as I've collected books from them, okay? Instead of putting those in one at a time when I get my new machine, I just back up that folder. I install Libronics. I input my license, which we can do online now. You just go into your tools and you synchronize your licenses, and it tells your new copy of Libronics what you own. And then when you have that other folder brought over and you copy it onto the new hard drive, it automatically reads those books for you just as if you're on your other one. So those are the 2 things to do if you're bringing it to a new machine.
We can call
Yeah. Yeah, 800 number. I mean, they're not 24/7, but they are, pretty much any business hours, east to west coast. I think it's like 6 to 5 or something like that, Pacific time. We're out in Bellingham, Washington. So, yeah, they're great people too. I mean, has anybody ever dealt with our customer service people? I mean, could you give a testimony about how great they are?
I've only had to call them once, and yeah, they were very helpful. Like, sent me to the right place on the website. Fixed quickly.
Yeah, they're really good. They're committed. They're dedicated. Most of them are Christian. They all speak English. I mean, these are things, in the world today. Yeah, I mean, it really is. Unfortunately, customer service has become one of those things companies have to do. We are one of those companies that say we're going to provide a quality product and make sure that you can use it and you understand where it is. The training is even free now if you want to go online. If you go out to, for those of you that are getting it or have it or want to check this out, I'm not online. You can write that down, logos.com/videos, and that's where those are on our website. So I've got order forms here if you want to grab one before you go. If you're planning on getting one, come grab them before I'm out of discs later. Everybody's going to see a brief introduction later, so if you want that, grab that. If not, I'll see you down at the table or I'll see you around. Thanks for coming to this workshop. I'm glad you guys are equipped to do better Bible study. Have a good day.
Well, I trust you were challenged and motivated by this message to take bold steps of faith to advance the kingdom. We hope you'll take time to learn more about Noble Warriors and the Iron Sharpens Iron Conference Network by visiting noblewarriors.org. God bless you, friend.